Oh, welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, you are getting good at that beer opening. You've done that before, haven't you?
I went back to the right hand, man, the old natural, you know. So, yes, I am in college football form, Mike.
Well, hey, it's a good thing that you are, Shane, because we got SEC scrimmages. Damn near the entire conference had a scrimmage over the weekend.
I love it.
So we're going to recap a ton of those, Shane. But before we even get to that, Shane, with some intel and insight and all that, little curveball I'm going to throw your way, Shane.
Oh,
I am ready to tell you who's going to win a couple of these quarterback competitions based on what we know so far. So, how's that sound, brother, to start your little Monday morning here?
It sounds great, Mike. And I'm going to tell you, you sent me these clips. And there felt like there was a few hints dropped along the way. You know what I'm saying? Because I would be listening to one, and I'm not going to say who, and I'm like, oh, okay. I think this is our guy. So, yes, I may be right there with you. And I think that's what I love about scrimmages. It's starting to be a little bit of a separation. You know, you can do the coach speak all you want, but there's people there actively watching this. And if they see somebody getting all the ones, then we know that's probably our guy. So I like that. A little clarity of the depth chart. So, yeah, I'm pumped up to see who you think.
Now, the first two right off the bat, Shane, we don't even have coach comments from these two teams, but based on what I'm hearing, what people are saying down there, I think we're about ready to call these two races. And let's start at LSU, Shane, one that, we've had such a difficult time putting our finger on. And, hey, I got to hand it to – we've had some LSU fans saying this was going to be the answer from the start, and I think they're right, Shane. It's not even one we've been really talking about a ton, but old Jaden Daniels, the Arizona State transfer, based on what we're hearing, it sounds like he is going to be your starting quarterback for the LSU Tigers, taking a lot of the reps with the ones. Garrett Nussmeier had his ankle injury. He should be back this week. They have a big scrimmage on Wednesday. I'm not officially saying Jaden Daniels is their starter. I think Garrett Nussmeier has an opportunity to swing this back his way on Wednesday with this scrimmage. But if he doesn't get it done in that scrimmage, Shane, it's going to be Jaden Daniels going to be your starting quarterback for when LSU takes the field against Florida State.
Kind of surprised here. I think we were both on that Miles train. Not that we thought he was the future there at LSU. It's just he's steady Eddie. This is a guy we thought maybe we could roll out because they got a tough week one matchup. But, yeah, no, this is good. I think this is his guy. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't had quite enough time to recruit and everything. But, out of the gate, Kelly's got an idea how this system's going to run. And apparently he needs a mobile quarterback.
Right, and the word out of Baton Rouge when they got this guy, Shane, they knew what he had at Arizona State. They didn't have faith in the coaching staff to develop him and get the most out of him, but they loved what they saw from him, particularly early in his career. They're big believers in Jaden Daniels in Baton Rouge. So, you put all those pieces together, I think that's going to be your guy. Now, how about potentially the most impactful quarterback race in the SEC, Shane? I don't think they're going to turn around and name this guy the starter today or tomorrow or anything like that. But I think they've kind of already decided it. And I think Jimbo, with that smile on his face, he let it be known, Shane. I think it's going to be Haynes King down there. And I know you and I are both big fans of Max Johnson. He's a hell of a quarterback. We think the Aggies can go to a high place with Max Johnson or even Connor Wigman. Hear nothing but great things about him. But it sounds to me, Shane, like Haynes King is going to be your starting quarterback when Texas A&M starts the season. Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, this is who we thought would take the job last year. That we thought this is one of those guys we thought would be an upper echelon quarterback in the SEC. Unfortunately, he was dealt an injury early in the season, but One thing I don't. How official do you think this is? Like, if you were to gamble, Mike, 1 to 100, just overall, I guess, if you're leaning, I don't know how to word this.
90. I'll go 90.
Okay, that damn high.
Guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Even with Big Bad Brad down there on the field, I mean, that's the one thing that I think, they brought Max Johnson there for the starting quarterback position. I'm seeing videos of Brad Johnson out there with random guys on the football field, right, doing these little stunts, and it's just like he is all involved. And I'm wondering, how close? Like, is there going to be some series that we still see Max Johnson? Is there going to be some opportunities, or do you think he just takes, because Haynes King, he has got all the talent in the world, and this is a guy that really could grab the SEC by the balls, and if he comes out and plays to his true potential, I think there's an opportunity that Max Johnson never sees the field. So yeah. How's that play out, you think?
Well, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, they don't have much of a challenge the first 2 weeks of the season until Miami week 3. So, we're certainly going to see Max Johnson. And I think even Connor Wickman see the field the first couple of weeks of the season to see what they got. But just based on what I'm hearing, the way it's shaking out down there, it certainly sounds like all signs point to Haynes King once again being your starter, just like he was last year before he suffered that tough injury and was out for the year. But, no real surprises here, but I think this is again, you got options down here.
Yeah.
This isn't Max Johnson's garbage. This isn't Miles Brennan is garbage or Garrett Nussmeier. We have got some quality options. It's just, It seems like this is the way the reps are going. This is the way the coaching staff is leaning. So I fully anticipate at this point in time for Jaden Daniels and Haynes King to be your starting quarterbacks week 1 of the season.
And I like the clarity, Mike. As a fan, I hate the quarterback limbo all the way to week 1. It just feels like it muddles everything. So if we can get some of those 1 reps, because you need them. I mean, it's been a while since you've been under the lights competing, So I like him getting all the attention, and I'm glad that they're leaning toward a starting quarterback now than later.
Now, there's one more, Shane, and I think certainly if you're listening to this, you can say, well, hell, they're just going with the front runners. These are the guys that the vast majority of the fan base probably expected to be their starting quarterback. Mm-hmm. Word on the plane, Shane.
Let me guess. This is the one I was guessing.
TJ Finley is surging in this quarterback competition. I certainly don't expect Bryan Harsin to come out here again on Monday or anything and say, TJ's our guy. He's gonna start. They're probably gonna hold it off for a little while longer, see what Zach Calzada can do. But hell, based on what I'm hearing, Shane, Zach Calzada may not even be your backup. He may be number 3 at this point in time. The way he's playing with Robbie Ashford, the transfer from Oregon, potentially being the backup there. But I really think it's going to be TJ Finley, Shane. Second, I know the new offensive coordinator, but second year under Bryan Harsin. He's got command of the team. He's running with the ones. He's running it much more efficiently than Zach Calzada.
As long as he ain't running from the cops, Mike. That's all I'm saying. As long as he's not doing that, we've got us a starting quarterback down there, because you're going to hear it here in a minute.
Right.
I mean, Bryan comes out, and I'm 5 minutes into this thing. I'm like, man, he loves this guy.
Yeah.
So that's great for me, Mike, because they're going to need some quarterback. They're going to need some sort of normalcy back there. And like I said, valuable reps. I think it's important with this young receiving core. I think that's important for TJ. So I kind of this is my favorite one. I think this is the one we were both leaning toward, the start of the season. And this is just more affirmation.
Yeah. So we'll get to Auburn. That's going to be the second team we hit on, Shane. But before we get to that, we got to stay there on the bluegrass, Shane. Let's kick it on down to Kentucky, where, hell, they had a scrimmage over the weekend, but that ain't even the news, Shane. I mean, we finally got word here from Mark Stoops on his response there to John Calipari. It's a basketball school. He said, get the hell out of here with that. Let's kick it over to Mark Stoops. Right out the gate. I mean, this is the only thing people want to ask him about down there. his response to the basketball comments and everything going like that. And my God, Shane, he went a step further, basically saying Cal was, born on third base down here in Lexington. So let's kick it over to Mark Stoops.
Mark, why did that raise to the point where you felt like you needed to comment on it publicly as opposed to just behind the scenes or whatever?
I don't care what anybody says about their program. That's not my business. That's not my lane. But when you start talking about my program and others that we compete against, I don't do that. I stay in my lane. And, so that's in defense of my players, the defense of the work that we've done. And believe me, we want to continue to push. But don't demean or distract from the hard work and the dedication and the commitment that people have done to get to this point. And again, I don't need to apologize for that, and I won't. But we want more, and we want to continue to push that. But there are so many people, so many fans, so many coaches, so many players that have sacrificed so much to improve at the level we've improved at. And listen, we all know this program wasn't born on third base. So some may, but I could promise you this football team didn't wake up on third base. I did a lot of work. We did a lot of work. The commitment from the Joe Crafts and the so many different people, and Mitch and Dr. Barnhart, or Dr. Capilouto, so many people have done so much that you have to have a respect and appreciation for. We all want more.
Mark, as you've done that work that you've done here, you've gone out and recruited against some of these other programs. Have you had to fight, I imagine, from the beginning, that basketball school perception? Is that trigger you at all?
I mean, I'm not in third grade. You know what I mean? Like, it's trivial. I mean, come on. We understand history. That's great. I embrace it and love it, the history of our basketball. I'm proud of it. I love it. I didn't have that history. So we understand we're creating it. I also know people want to win now. I also know it's my responsibility to get to the postseason and win.
Have you and Cal talked since?
No.
Mark, I can't see you wasting a lot of time on social media like we do, and yet you posted so quickly after those comments came out. How did you find out about it?
It was pointed out to me. I really try to stay off there for that very reason. Anything, and I'm done. I addressed it. Again, I will defend my players, and the staff, and the people, and the Big Blue Nation. I will defend the people that sacrifice. I've said it to you how many times. I know how difficult it is to come to these games, how expensive it is, how hard it is getting to the stadium, the parking. 60,000 people, you know what I mean? It's tough, and it's a fantastic atmosphere, and I cannot thank them enough. And we want to continue to see that. That's what I defended. I don't need to defend Mark.
Oh, boy. Man, just when you thought the drama was winding down here, again, I don't think this is Mark Stoops, throwing logs on the fire necessarily, but he's just saying, hey, I ain't backing down from what I think, and Calipari was in the wrong, and I don't know about you, Shane, but I think Stoops comes out of this a big, big winner because he's just rallying this fan base, and he is kind of taking the high road here. He's not trashing basketball. He's just saying, don't you dare trash this program, these players, and these fans that come out here and support this team when, there's many across the country that are unwilling to do it.
Mike, it's SEC football, then basketball, and I hate to say it for those diehard basketball lovers, but we know it. I mean, the numbers don't lie. The multi-billion-dollar deals that these huge corporations are making with these universities, right. It's all stems from college football. And I think sometimes you get lost in it. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about, like celebrities. Sometimes they're so used to being catered to and talked down to different people, they forget that that's not reality. And sometimes it helps to get a little slap in the face to remember your place. And right. I think that's what we're seeing with Kentucky here. And I love the comments. I think he hit the nail on the head. This, Mark is building something, man. He's been building something. This staff has been building something. And so it's different, How many people do you know that have a business that their dad started? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You didn't build that business. Your dad did. So that's kind of the approach I felt. Mark built this damn thing, from the ground up. So you're messing with this baby. And I think he was more hurt. Not that he was being compared to less than, but being compared to Alabama and Georgia, that those are football schools and this is a basketball school. I think he made a couple comments like that, and I think that's really what bothers him, because he is in the living room of these kids trying to recruit the same athletes that Nick Saban and Kirby Smart is, and then your coworker is telling everybody that those two schools are the football schools. This one's not a football school. I think that hurt him more because, again, he built this and it's starting to thrive. I mean, we're talking 10-win seasons, potential number 2 in the SEC East this year. We weren't saying that shit 10 years ago.
No, and I got to be honest, Shane, the more this drags on, the more I'm regretting my preseason Kentucky picks. I mean, my God, no one's going to give you a pat on the back, Shane, for picking Kentucky second, but they are going to be living in my mentions when Mark Stoops and company come out with their hair on fire and just beating the hell out of everybody they face this year. You know what?
And you know what I do first? I do this during practice. That old school propaganda, man. I get one of them little airplanes and I drop over flyers, notes from Calipari that this is a basketball school, not a football. I'd put his face in the locker room. That's my motivation. I hate to say it. I can't imagine as a Tennessee fan seeing Rick Barnes' face on the wall saying, I'm going to win today because I hate that guy. It's
right, exactly.
But, wherever you can get motivation, I think that's important. And that's one thing that Mark is really good at. This not just him, this whole staff. They love these kids. You know what I'm saying? I mean, firsthand. You say something bad about Kentucky, hell, that coaching staff will come after you because they love these boys. And it is their baby. This is something that they grew from the ground up. And this is just more motivation for them, for the non-believers. Yeah. Even in their backyard.
But all right, Shane, we hit on Auburn. Let's go back down there. They had a scrimmage on the Plains over the weekend, Shane. And like I said, TJ Finley running with the first team. Zach Calzada. He did have a touchdown pass from what I hear. So it's not like we're not sitting here saying he's a terrible player or anything, but first 3 drives didn't score, whereas first 2 drives for TJ Finley, Auburn's offense scored. 1 field goal and 1 touchdown on those drives. Robbie Ashford, again, continue to hear good things about the quarterback many people have written off. And a little side note, Shane, Anders Carlson, our kicker, who lost for the season at the tail end of last year, 4 for 4 on field goals, so he's good for the year. That's a big boost for the Auburn Tigers. But again, the main impression, Shane, we hit on it already, TJ Finley. Again, we're not sitting here saying guaranteed he's going to be the starter, but at this point in time, I would be surprised if it's anybody but TJ. And what does that tell you, Shane? Because we all know Bryan Harsin on the hot seat, if the team comes out here and struggles with a quarterback that a lot of this fan base has already written off and they were ready for the Zach Calzada era, I mean, he's basically putting his nuts on the line here saying, this is my guy. If he does that, I don't know. Do you think that factors into this decision at all?
No, I think at this point, man, it doesn't really matter. I think the pressure's off, Brian, and I know that sounds crazy. But I really think that, there were some true colors being shown down there. Here we just talked about Kentucky. Yeah. I mean, we had a similar version down there in Auburn, and people, just imploding on each other. And what came from that, I'm hoping, is a galvanized team, is a program that doesn't care what outside noise is, doesn't care who they put at quarterback, doesn't care who starts on defense. It just, I think it's these guys against the world, and I think that's the kind of mentality that we saw at SEC Media Days, and that still stems to the quarterback selection here. He loves it. As you listen to Bryan talk, and he talks about the other quarterbacks, but he keeps going back to how well TJ operated under center here, and that's what he wants. He wants somebody to operate the system that he's putting in place on the Plains.
Yeah. So let's kick it over to Bryan Harsin. But hey, before we do that, Shay, just a little media note inside baseball that I think majority of fans, they probably were like, well, who gives a damn about this information? But Bryan Harsin, immediately after the scrimmage, met with the media. He did it even a little early. Auburn had their scrimmage was late. So this was around 8:30 on a Saturday night when he was holding this press conference. And why why I'm even bringing attention to this, Shane, apparently last year, similar situation. He waited an entire hour. And, again, he doesn't work for the media, right?
Right.
But he is really going out of his way, I think, to kind of win over some of those people that may have turned on him last year. And this is just a continuation of what we're talking about of Bryan Harsin kind of correcting where he erred last year. And we know that the media, they're not the ones making the decision on whether to fire Bryan Harsin or not. But you better believe, man, these presidents, these ADs, they read what's written about these coaches.
Yeah.
And when you start to win favor with some of these media types, I think that can only help you. And I don't think Bryan Harsin had that figured out last year, but I think he certainly does now. So I just wanted to make that little note. I mean, I think he is really, really trying significantly to correct the wrongs he had last year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if he wants to keep his job, he better call that SEC podcast for a sit down. No. Hey, I'll tell you, man, I think there have been a lot of coaches lose their jobs because they lost media control. Yeah. You think of some of the best coaches that are out there, they're just pawns to them, man. They're getting their message across. You'll hear it through this show, There's several of them that pop up, and you can hear it. It's almost like they're talking to some of those. Kirby is one. You'll just remember this, pin ear this thing, because when you listen to Kirby, he's talking to his damn team, but he's doing it through the media, and I think that's very important because you got to have them. If not, they're going to find news, and it may not be good news. It may not even be real news. They're going to find something, and I think having the media in your pocket, just catering to them. I know it sounds stupid, but then you can kind of dictate what you want to control as far as narrative down there.
Yeah. So let's kick it over to Harsin. Shay talks about, he's kind of over the moon, it sounds like, with TJ Finley, how he's been a coach on the field for the Tigers. And then the second question, what did he want to see from the quarterbacks in this scrimmage? Who's going to lead this football team? That was the key to what Harsin's comments here.
So we had a little situational scrimmage. We got some live work in tonight, which was good. We needed that. I thought the effort was really good tonight. Execution will improve. We got a chance to play a lot of guys, so kind of your typical first scrimmage. Get a lot of guys in there, let guys tackle live, let guys try to break tackles, see if we can move the ball down the field, what's going to happen in certain situations. We've been emphasizing that quite a bit, and I thought the guys handled it well tonight. I was proud of them, just the effort. I thought the effort was there. Urgency, we talked about that. It can always be a little better, but it's first scrimmage. There's a little bit of nerves, and being in the stadium, guys are excited. Some of the new players that haven't been in the stadium, they look forward to that. But just a few standouts. I thought Damari Alston ran the ball well today. So we had a couple of freshmen that stood out. Damari Alston stood out. Thought he ran the ball really well. And then Camden Brown had a touchdown tonight. So those were two freshmen that I thought played well. And then other than that, everybody got some opportunities on the offensive side. So a few catches here and there for everybody, like 2 to 3 catches. Barr had 3 catches. Shanker had a couple catches. Fromm had a couple catches. Shanker also had a touchdown tonight, which was good. So just kind of getting the tight in the ball. Quarterbacks, I thought all did some really good things. Finley operated well tonight. That was good to see. Thank you. And I thought we had a long drive on the very first drive with the first group. It was about 14 plays. So he executed well on that drive. I thought Robbie did well too, making some plays and operated the huddle and did some good things on that part, on his part. Calzada, solid tonight, had a touchdown as well. Carlson was 4 for 4, so it was good to have him back out there too, just after the injury, and to see him get out there and get a few kicks. He's been really doing well in camp, but tonight was good to be out in the stadium, I think, for him as well. We had a few sacks. We didn't have the quarterbacks live, so it was hard to really gauge the sacks. But Derek and Eku, both those guys were coming off the edge, and they were doing a really good job. But we had Eku credited for a sack. I think Derek would have had 1 or 2 in there as well. And then at the end of it there, we did a little goal line period, and there was a fumble, and Craig McDonald picked it up and ran for about 95 yards on it. So it was a great play. I don't know which linebacker it was that kind of came through there and made the fumble actually happen. But Craig picked it up and ran it in, and that was how we finished it out. So it was good for the defense, good energy that way. And overall, I thought, we got some good work in. We're a ways away from where we need to be. I think guys know that. So I've always been impressed with TJ as far as just his command. He understands. He's very much like a coach on the field. He understands what we're trying to accomplish. I think he's conceptually picks things up very quickly, listens to the details and all the little nuances of plays and what everybody's supposed to be doing. If there's a coaching point made, not just for him but anybody, he'll remember that coaching point and be able to echo it whenever it comes up, or remind guys, and doesn't have to be a coach, which you appreciate. So there's just a lot of, I think, let me say this, he's got a really good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish, all right, and he listens to those things. So I appreciate that. I thought tonight he was good, led the team down the field. I think he executed well when he needed to in some critical moments. Can improve in just kind of some of the easier throws that we didn't complete tonight. Don't know if that was him or not, but I think there's some things that we can improve in those areas just from an accuracy standpoint. But overall, I thought he operated well. There's some – I'll watch it tonight, and I think we'll see some of that on film. And that's the one thing I told our guys. Every one of those guys want to play, and we're going to play the best guys. They all deserve an opportunity to go out there, which we've given every one of our guys to showcase what they can do, and now we got to start making some decisions. All right, we got to start figuring out, all right, who's going to get a little bit more reps. But as far as the quarterback goes, I watched the whole thing, sideline all the way to the field, how we operate in between plays, the sense of urgency, how fast we call the plays, how fast we get to the ball, how we check things, how we get our offense into the right situations. All those things come into play. So it's not just, hey, that guy throws the ball, perfectly or the best every time. You want that, but like, how's he operating? Right? What's he doing? Is this guy going to help us in the run game? Can he help us, with his feet? Can he do some things in the pass game? So there's a lot more other factors. And then, you know what? Hey, you're watching how accurate they are. You're watching the decision-making process. So that's what I was looking at tonight. What I told those guys tonight, I wanted to see them lead. That's what I wanted to see. From the sideline on the field, that was the number one thing for me. Coach Keesaw can figure out the rest. I want to see these guys lead. And I want to see them just operate our offense. And I thought, for the most part, they did a good job. We didn't have a lot of delay of games. We had one delay a game. We didn't have a ton of bad snaps or just sloppy football from the quarterback play. We can get better, but it wasn't that sloppy from their end.
All right, Chase. So, I don't want to say he's calling out Zach Calzada because I don't think that's the case at all.
Right.
But I think, when you bring in a transfer guy and he wasn't able to participate due to injury during the spring, that it's easy to if you listen to everything he's saying, it certainly sounds like TJ Finley is leading this football team, and that's if that's truly what he was wanting to see. I mean, that's again why I'm so high on TJ Finley right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's again, that's the narrative he gave down there. This is his guy. He mentions Calzada, but I think, Calzada's got a long ways to go. Yeah. And I'm not ruling him out. I'm not, because you've seen a good TJ and you've seen a bad TJ. And I think it's important that if something goes wrong, that we've got another reliable quarterback that can step in and maybe take over the reins, and maybe that's what Calzada needs. He's done it before. It wasn't maybe the best season, but he sure did win a lot of games last year. So maybe that's just the message he's trying to get across to Calzada. I mean, I'm just trying to read through the lines here. I'm just happy if I'm a fan that we've got a quarterback and we got to work on a few things, because that's what Bryan says. It's the minor things that we've got to execute. The short passes, which I know that sounds stupid, but a lot of times these kids just want to sling it 40 yards in the air. But it's the little passes, it's the check downs, it's getting rid of the ball, things like that. I think if he can work on those minor details, then I don't know, man. Maybe we got us a quarterback down here.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Shane, next let's kick it on down to Mississippi State. We haven't been able to hit on the Bulldogs lately, but they had a scrimmage over the weekend, Shane, and it sounds like the offense, aside from the offensive line, we'll get to Coach Leach here in a second. The offensive line had some struggles, but Will Rogers, Shane, 2 touchdowns in this scrimmage. Jaquavian Marks, the running back, he had a rushing touchdown. Dylan Johnson, the other running back, he caught one of the touchdowns. And then good news, because Jaden Wally, he had a huge freshman year. Now he's back his junior season here. He scored a touchdown in the scrimmage. So those are the little news and notes I got from Mississippi State scrimmage here. But, man, it sounds like Will Rogers, baby. He's heating up at a perfect time coming into the season. Cannot wait to see this team take the field. It sounds like the offense is humming right now.
Absolutely. I love these comments. And well, go ahead and roll them, because I want to bring something up after.
I feel like your defense was getting a lot of pressure today. What did you take from that?
Well, they did early. I think it was a combination of doing a good job on defense and then, not being in position on offense. And then we tightened up and then moved the ball better. But the O-line's kind of the most important part. So,
I guess, how do you balance that in a scrimmage when you look at, the O-line struggles or the D-line success? How do you try to balance that out?
You just try to evaluate, what a guy did right or wrong on either side of the ball. I thought that, the first two series defense dominated. The next 2 series offense dominated. And then it was mixed. The last 2, I'm not counting the 3s, but the last 2 series were mixed minus the turnovers, I thought,
With the format of things out here in scrimmage, just obviously coaches not directly in players' ears sometimes. Do you kind of, I guess, see who you can trust maybe a little more in this format than any other practice? I guess how do you kind of weigh scrimmages when it comes time to evaluate?
Weigh them as another practice, but it does help illustrate who you can trust. And then the other thing is execution can be a little bit challenging because you got a mixture of players out there. But the other thing is you got to be able to adapt to the situation, and I like practicing in the stadium anyway. Then the other thing, occasionally, there'll be guys kind of get stage fright, and then other guys, are really ready to play. So you try to see a little bit of that too.
All right, Shane. I mean, Mike Leach keeps it short and simple here, but he wants to see who shows up when the lights turn on. You know what?
Absolutely, and I love this reporter's question. How do you feel about your offense doing too good or your defense too? That's one thing that I've always had trouble with these scrimmages or spring games or something like that. You'll be watching when you're like, golly, our offense looks great, but then you're like, damn, our defense looks horrible. It's like, how do you, it's more of I know it's a team effort, but they're looking at it individually and who's doing good, who's making mistakes. I understand what the Pirates saying here. But I love the fact that the defense was at it, man. Because that's one thing when Mississippi State's if they're going to be good, like you and I think, it's not about the offense. The offense is going to do its thing. It's going to get points. It's going to get yards. I'm not worried about that offense, but I'm worried about this defense. Can it stay in the games? And, the fact that they came out here and punched this offense in the mouth on the first 2 drives, that's what I like to hear, because this is a team you can't afford to get down 2 or 3 scores. So I think this is great news. And, it's still early. I'm not going to have the parade just yet, but I love the positive, and I love the fact that the offense figured it out, So there was apparently some adjustment along the way, and that's what I think Will Rogers is going to excel at this year, is adjusting during the game.
Well, let's move on from Mississippi State, Shane, because those fans, they're a little worried that we're so high on the Bulldogs. You know what?
Yeah, they said don't lock it down, man. I've already put money. I've got money on all these teams now, so we should have a segment of gambling because my wife's looking at the account like, what the hell is going on here? I said, it's a savings account, honey. Don't worry about it. We're gonna get it back.
Next, let's kick it over down to Fayetteville, Shane. They had a 110-play scrimmage over the weekend, and how about this, Shane? KJ Jefferson, our guy here, 3 passes of at least 40 yards in the scrimmage, including a 65-yard touchdown to Matt Landers. Matt Landers had 2 touchdowns, Shane. Warren Thompson had a big play. Jadon Hazelwood made a big play in the red zone. Trey Knox, the tight end, had 2 catches of 20 or more yards, including a 35-yard reception. So, man, when you think the Arkansas Razorbacks, you think offensive line, you think tough, you think running game with Sam Pittman running that show. Yet you get these tidbits here of a passing game that looks to be firing on all cylinders. My God, I mean, Arkansas, who knows? They may have the best offense in the SEC.
Dude, if Arkansas can stretch the field, watch out. I mean, we know this team's going to run. We know this team's going to be good at moving the chains. But if they can keep the secondary on their heels, golly, I mean, anything can happen. And by anything, I mean everything's going to happen against you because the avenues will open. KJ, if he can get a 4-yard head start, he's going to get a lot of rushing yards. So I think this is great news because we've heard the hype. We've heard about the receivers, who's emerging. We don't quite know, Sam talks about that here in a minute, but the fact that you've got so many weapons and then it's starting to pay off in the scrimmage, in the game-like environment, man, that's I would be on cloud nine if I was a Razor. I'm on cloud nine now. I didn't grow up a Razorback fan, so I can only imagine what they're doing.
Yeah, so let's kick it over to Sam Pittman. Shane says the corners and the receivers, those are the 2 biggest battles on the roster right now.
Yeah.
You love to hear that. And I thought it was interesting, Shane, how ready is the team for the season? Maybe it's just coach speak, but he's pumping the brakes on all that, Shane. Hey, hell, we ain't even close to being ready for the field. So let's kick it over to Sam.
We had right around 110 total plays today. We went 1 offense versus 2 offense, 2 offense versus 1 offense, 3 versus 3, then came back and did good on good, 1 on 1, 2 on 2, 3 on 3, somewhere around close to 30 plays in those 2 racks a piece. And then we had a 3rd down situation where we stayed out there 8 plays in a row. We had a high red situation, a low red situation, and then a 2-minute. And the 2-minute was very short, even though the 1 offense got the ball down there, able to kick a field goal. It was on a 50, 22 seconds, no timeouts. And they were able to get us in field goal range. Twos weren't really close on that. Some things then, but I think if you're looking at battles on our team, to me that's the biggest battle that we have is corner, and probably the next one is who would run out there with your ones at wide receiver, because you obviously have Keytron and Matt and Warren, and so I don't know, they're all really good players, so good players.
Talked earlier about game shape, just in terms of overall level of competition and level of execution. How close is the team to where you want them to be at 3 weeks out before the start of the season?
As a whole team, not real close. We got a lot to work on. I've been bragging on some positions, but you got to put them all. You can't just have a really good player over here, good players over. You got to put it all together. I thought the second half of the scrimmage, I thought we put together a little bit on both sides of the ball, playing well together. But we're not there yet. The first part of practice, the first part of fall, a lot of times is you're not worried about playing together as a team. You're worried about surviving practice, and it was hotter than hot, out there. And then the next mode you go is you're wondering, You're worried about your position and where you're at on the depth chart. And at some point that all comes together is, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. Now, how do I make my teammate better? We're not there yet. No, we're not a team that's bickering and fighting and all. I don't mean that, but we're not a unit yet. We've got some good players and we're not a consistent unit on anywhere yet, but we're further along right now than we were last year at this point.
All right, Chase, are you buying it? Are the Razorbacks ready, or is he letting his team know, hey, we got to stay focused here?
No, yeah, this is, he's got pocket aces over there, and he's just acting like he's slow playing this thing. No, I think obviously there's going to be some rust. A lot of these guys, especially on defense, it's the first time they started tackling. So
yeah,
there's gonna be some mistakes being had out there, and it's cleaning up those little dumb penalties. It's cleaning up, the little boneheaded mistakes that you may make out there, and that's what this is for. It's what fall camp is for. So, I mean, there's a little bit of truth to what he's saying, but again, you don't want to put your you don't want to go out there and again, back to media, Mike. You come out there and you say we're gonna kick ass. I mean, I remember when Lane Kiffin came out and says we're gonna be singing Rocky Top down there in Gainesville. They used that the entire season. Expecting a victory over the Florida Gators. Well, if you come out saying exactly what Sam's doing, well then okay, yeah, he may have expectations to win the West, but he's not coming out here and saying that.
Right, and for the Razorbacks, Shane, I mean, it is so important that they come out and they're already firing on all cylinders because they got Cincinnati in the opener. I believe it's ESPN nationally televised. They've got South Carolina, a very, very, very improved team coming to Fayetteville that's going to be looking to shock the SEC. I mean, there's no time here to be. We'll ease into this thing by week 3. We'll have it. If you wait till week 3, your season could be in the toilet because Arkansas is going to be favored in both those games, but if they don't show up and play, they could lose both of them too. You know what?
That's right. I mean, you're not starting out with UTC and Mercer. You are playing some high quality opponents. I give Cincinnati a hard time, but it's a program that's well coached, and you cannot afford to come out with mistakes. And I think that's the big thing is, there's a lot of seniority on this team. There's a lot of folks coming back. And I think that's the main thing with Sam is he's going to make sure these guys are running efficient. And if they're doing that, then they can beat a team like Cincinnati. And it's not even going to be close. But the way you keep a team like them in is coming out making stupid mistakes. And that's what they got to clean up here in the next couple of weeks.
I sure as hell hope they don't have this show in Cincinnati, Shane, because they're going to have bulletin board material for weeks, but just based on one episode. You know what?
Oh, I know. I hate Cincinnati. And I don't know if it's because Butch Jones was up there at one time or what. There's just something about it. I'm just not a big fan. Maybe it's the Bengals. I'm a Steeler fan, so maybe it's just Cincinnati altogether.
Yeah, Skyline Chili sucks.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Who puts chili in spaghetti noodles? I mean, that's just something you throw to get like, okay, I've got 2 ingredients left in my refrigerator. Let's put them together and call it a meal. That's not a meal. That's garbage. And I can hear somebody's so damn mad. I can hear him tweeting right now. Hey, have you never had this chili noodles? No, I've had them all, man. I've been around the block. But I will tell you, if you're going to do chili, there's no other way. Have you done it with like Fritos and stuff?
Oh, of course, man.
Now that's a different thing. It's just I'm not a spaghetti noodle guy, so like Olive Garden. Olive Garden's trash. I'm saying that we're not going to get sponsorships from them. I apologize, Mike, but we're no endless breadsticks. I mean, I like endless bowls of food and stuff, but
I know
anything. I'm not a big pasta guy.
Well, thanks for ruining that sponsorship.
I don't know. I'm getting.
I had him on the line.
It's almost dinner time, Mike. I'm starting to think about it. And I'm glad my wife's not making spaghetti. So.
All right, Shay, let's kick it all down to Rocky Top next, where the Vols just wrapped up scrimmage. They're already on scrimmage number 2 down there, Shane. Offense dominated the first scrimmage. Defense turned it around for the second scrimmage. So that's good news. You're still hearing a lot of buzz, Shane, about Brew McCoy, the transfer receiver, who's still not cleared, my God. I mean, I mean, we're running short on days here to get him into the lineup, but at least when he is eligible, it sounds like he is going to be ready to go. Walker Merrill is someone that is apparently emerging. I believe is a redshirt freshman for the Vols on the outside, so that's interesting. But I think the best thing we have from Josh Heupel, we'll kick it over to him in just a second, but it sounds like they have got their offensive line situated with they're going to keep Darnell Wright at right tackle and the battle between Mincy and Crawford there on the left side. I think that if you're a Tennessee fan, that's music to your ears because as long as you essentially got 4 or 5 and then your final spot, you know the 2 guys that are competing for it. What you don't want at this point in time is kind of mixing your offensive line looking for the best 5. It feels like they already got it there.
Yeah, and that's one thing people don't talk enough about. They always talk about quarterbacks and, the quarterback controversies and getting reps with the ones, but sometimes your offensive line's a bigger deal, man, because, if you're with the same 5 90% of the time, you know what your left guy's doing. You know what your right guy's doing. You're noticing things, you're picking up things, you're talking to each other, and if you're rotating, it's hard to kind of get that continuity, and at times especially with Tennessee, man, as fast as they run, as mobile as Hooker is, at times he was real bad about holding on to the ball. You want to keep him vertical, and we've got to have that front 5 situated. So this is music, like you said, this is music to my ears.
Yeah, so let's kick it over to him. He talks about that battle, but also I love these comments, Shane, about guys not buying into the hype and competition heating up as we inch closer to the season.
Josh, a couple things. How do you see the left tackle battle going right now?
Yeah, it's been back and forth a little bit through training camp. You guys have heard me say this. At the end of the day, we're going to need both of them, all of them. It just, you experienced last year injuries, and that's true at the tackle spot. It's true on all 5 spots. Those guys are continuing to compete. That's not going to stop after today. That will happen all the way up until kickoff. Anticipate both of them playing during the course of the football game throughout the season, and certainly in week 1. Who gets a majority of that or what the percentage breakdown is, we'll continue to evaluate as we go through. Both of them have made a bunch of progress from spring ball and really since the beginning of training camp in understanding what we're doing offensively. In the run game, playing with better pad level, being able to create some movement up front. Both of them take major strides in the pass pro side of it too. So, I feel like those guys are continuing to progress as they should.
Are they playing well enough to where you think Darnell Wright will stay at right tackle?
Yeah, at this point, we plan to keep Darnell at the right side.
2 things. So we talked to Jalen Hyatt and Walker Merrill the other day, and Jalen specifically talked about all the praise and the preseason's great, but you got to prove it on the field. Then Walker talked about I'm just tired of not playing. I want to he's motivated to get on the field. When you hear that kind of competitiveness and mentality, what's that mean to you as a coach, and what do you like about that type of mindset?
Yeah, that's the truth, though, right? Jalen's comment about and preseason stuff doesn't matter, whether that's rankings or praise of players, whatever. At the end of the day, we all got to go prove it, and game day's approaching for us. So I like the mentality that, he's going to be purposeful in the way he approaches it, and our team will be too. I really believe that. For Walker, those are 2 great examples of guys that, since we've gotten back from bowl game, and really even before that, just like, this is where I'm at. This is where I got to get to. Having a plan of how I'm going to do that every single day. Those guys are pros in the way that they've approached every day in the building, man. They're competitive. They understand the plan. They have a personal plan of how they want to continue to grow. They're extra every single day. It showed up in the competitiveness in which they've played, and that's with the ball in their hands. It's in one-on-ones. It's with the ball not in their hands, and the way that they're blocking out on the perimeter. One of the things today offensively I thought was just our perimeter screen game. Which is really an extension of the run game. The effectiveness, efficiency of that was really good to see. Those 2 guys had a big part in it today.
All right, Shane. So, hey, everybody might be singing the praises of Tennessee's offense and what they can accomplish, but hell, I like the fact that so these players recognize, it's basically rat poison, as Nick Saban likes to say. You know what?
Yeah, don't read them clippings. That's don't follow Shane on Twitter is what he's saying, because Shane's got the hype train a rolling. So, no, this is good, man. A little humble pie is not bad, but that just typically means you've got something. And we've heard some players coming out talking up the program. I'm sure that gets pulled to the side and say, hey man, we got to be better than that. You know what I'm saying? I understand you want to pump up the fan base, you want to tell everybody how good we are, but we don't want that. We want to come out here and just show it on the field. And I think that's kind of the vibe I got from Heupel here is like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're working. We're at work. You know what I'm saying? We clock in, we clock out. We have a good day at work, one week at a time. That's the approach that they're going with. And don't get sucked up into them numbers, because I'm seeing it, man. You saw Roman coming out the other day, 10-2, beating Georgia.
Yep.
You saw there was another article talking about Tennessee's the number 2 offense projected this season. I mean, there's plenty of rat poison out there, and if you start believing it, you start believing you're better than you are, then you're going to catch a team like a Pittsburgh or somebody like that that's going to punch you in the mouth because they don't read the same news articles that you are.
Right, and I love the fact – Heupel also talked about the competition heating up, because at this time last year, Shane, the coaching staff was basically saying, who are the 11 guys we can throw on the field with some confidence? Like, they were basically looking for bodies, whereas now it seems like there is some depth at a number of key positions, including linebacker, including potentially receiver, where they're emerging, and running back with some new, fresh faces ready to see the field, where, the projected starters are getting pushed, because there may be guys on this roster that didn't get their opportunity last year because they hadn't earned it yet. And now they realize, what they could potentially do with this coaching staff, but yet they still have to go out there and earn it this training camp. And it sounds like people are getting pushed all across the board there on Rocky Top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right, Shane, next let's kick it on down to Athens, with defending national champions. Had their first scrimmage here, and sounds like the offense is ahead of the defense, which is not something we're used to saying down there in Athens, but with so much firepower back on that side of the ball, Stetson Bennett and company winning the scrimmage. Darnell Washington, the star tight end. I mean, of all the tight ends down there, Shane, Darnell, he seems like he gets the least amount of buzz. But he is emerging there. Had a great scrimmage. Just got some bad news, though, Shane. Arian Smith injured. He's going to miss the rest of camp. That guy is just – he can never stay healthy. He was a high school All-American. We have such high expectations for these guys. And sometimes, man, they just can't stay healthy, and it's just devastating,
Dude, I prime example. I was watching Pittsburgh preseason game, man. Pickens out there with an amazing catch in the back of the end zone. You can't help but think, what if he did stay healthy? What if he did play 3 years, or how because there's a lot of great receivers that come through Georgia. You think of A.J. Green, you think of Hines Ward, where would he have ranked? Because I don't think 10, 15 years from now we're talking about Pickens in Georgia, Maybe we're talking about him in the NFL, but it's just one of those things these days. If you're and that's what Kirby talks about. You're too good, you're out. You don't get enough you're gone. It's and then if you are healthy, or get injured, it's just like your time on the field is so precious. And but it's another man up who takes the reins.
Yeah. So let's kick it over to Kirby. Shea talks about the scrimmage, talks about receivers needing to step up, and that corner spot. Kamari Lassiter, Nyland Green battling for a starting role. Dylan Everett also in that mix to start opposite Kaylee Ringo. Let's get it over to Kirby.
All right. Thanks, guys. Practice 9 in the books. Didn't think it was our best of our 9 practices. It was our first scrimmage, first chance to tackle live. I think you always have to be careful how you assess your team when you tackle live for the first time. In my experiences as a coach, it's not pretty, and it was not pretty from a tackling standpoint. But offense is ahead of the defense, which is probably to be expected. I was a little disappointed in the energy and kind of enthusiasm and leadership of the defense. There wasn't a lot of support there, and if things go bad, there wasn't a guy to kind of pick them up and and grab the bull by the horns and get them headed in the right direction. But I thought the kids played hard, especially early in the scrimmage. We had guys really play hard, physical, came out with the right mindset. Like I said, practiced 9 in a row with 1 day off in between the 9. So they have gotten after it. They'll get a day off tomorrow. We'll get back to work Monday. We have a long way to go to get to where we need to go. And that's nothing to do with Oregon. That's nothing to do with anybody we play. That's to do with the Georgia Bulldogs. So we got to look ourselves in the eyes as coaches and figure out what the guys we have can do the best and get them to go execute that at the best. We have good football players on this team. We didn't necessarily play with the right energy and enthusiasm across the board as a whole today. There were some good individual performances, but all in all, I think we got to have a better scrimmage next Saturday. Dylan made some plays today. Dylan Bell made some plays today. Jackson Meeks made some plays today. If you're counting him as young, because nowadays sophomore's not young. Sophomore's old. 40% of our team, 35% of our team is freshmen. So, I thought Dylan Bell stepped up and made some plays and flashes. Oscar made some plays at tight end, counting him as a, receiving weapon. So those guys continue to do a good job, but we just don't have the depth at receiver. I thought Rosemead did a good job today. AD made a few plays. But we're going to have to be really good on the perimeter to be explosive. We've got good tight ends, but we've got to be good outside to complement the tight ends. And we need to get Denylin back, and we need to get Dylan Bell rolling to get where we need to get at wideout. No, he's working his way in the rotation by necessity. We don't have enough depth at the position there. And Denylin's just got he hyperextended his knee before we even started camp. So he's got an injury that's lagging over from camp, but he's not. He's back running. He should be back here shortly, and hopefully can get him back healthy and get him in there competing. But it's just every year. I don't think across the country you see 4 senior wideouts. Show me where you got 4 senior wideouts. Show me where you got 2 seniors and 2 juniors, because wideouts are very similar. If they don't get the ball, they're gone. So you constantly have young players, and if they're really good, they're going to the draft. So that's where one of our juniors is. So everything is kind of cyclical, and right now at wideout we don't have great depth, and we have a couple injuries. So those young guys are getting thrust out there, and they got to grow up. We've done it before. We've had productive freshman wide receivers. Yeah, both those kids are smart, savvy, tough, physical. I love the way they tackle and play. I thought Nyland had some good physical tackles for him. Kamari is one of the best tacklers on the team. So it's a lot more about covering at that position than it is tackling. And Kamari did some nice things, gave up some plays. He had a really good day the other day where he made a couple plays on fade balls on AD. And, Kamari's fighting his tail off for that spot and to help us in some special team spots. But I'm very pleased with the growth of those guys. We won't get through the year with just those 3, though. We're going to have 4 and 5 corners to survive the season.
Yeah, Shay, we get so caught up in all the tight end hype. We got to remember, hey, they need receivers down there. They got loads of talent in Athens, but with Jermaine Burton transferring out, with guys like Smith getting hurt, we're waiting for Dominique Blaylock to emerge, who he's a guy himself has been banged up quite a bit in his career. I don't know, any concern here as Kirby is, want some receivers to step up in this offense?
A little bit. I'm picking up a theme. If you haven't checked it out on that SEC podcast on the YouTube channel, listen to Todd Monken the other day, and one of the things he talked about was exactly what Kirby's talking about. If you don't give these guys opportunities, they leave.
Right.
And so I'm picking up a theme. It's like he says we got great tight ends. There's not a lot of 3 tight end sets, but there's going to be. We got to get our best players on the field, but you also got to be careful. And not neglecting a different department, because at the 3-4 weeks in, those guys are out, because they're not getting the accolades they were promised, because they have a desire to go to the NFL, and if they don't feel like they're getting that, that audition, then they're going to find another school where they can play. So
Right.
it's weird, you know, because you'll talk. Here we're talking about some of these schools like, you know, they're trying to create depth, and then you talk to a school like Georgia, and they're like, they got to be careful with the depth they have so they don't lose it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if you picked up on it, but this felt like a team meeting. This felt like this should be like you could easily have taken the media out and put the players in there.
Yeah.
And he's looking for some leaders to step up on this program. You know, Nakobe Dean is not a guy that's easily replaced. Right. You know, that's one of the things they talked about when he was on the field last year. He was a commander. He was the captain of that defense. He got these guys in position. I mean, there's a lot of times you would hear him yelling at different defensive linemen, moving them to the right position, or different linebackers. You know, you got to have that if you want to win a national championship. Not just 10 games, not just win the East. I'm talking about if you legitimately want to repeat a national championship, you have got to have some dogs on both sides of the offense and defense, and true leaders and coaches on that field. Because if you don't get it, you don't have that motivating factor. And that's one thing we were concerned about is there a hangover? Is there a honeymoon? Or this is owed to me, this is due to me? You know, Georgia can't have that. They got to come out there expecting to win and getting better every single day. And it felt like this scrimmage was a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, and speaking of Todd Monken, Shane, I think that, you know, someone was kind of joking with him, said, you ever rolled out 4 tight ends on the field at one time? And he said, well, we could do that, but then all our receivers are going to jump in the portal. Yeah. And that's just kind of, I mean, he's kind of kidding, but not really, because that's the state of college football. And in a place like Georgia, where you just across the board, you got star players that came in here with scholarship offers from 50, 60, 70 programs. They come to Athens, Georgia, and if they ain't getting the ball, they're going to start looking around and say, well, hell, they throw them the ball at South Carolina, Alabama, right, Mississippi State, whatever. You know, and I'm going to go to where they get me the ball. So it's a balancing act, to be sure, and it sounds like that's what's happening in Athens right now.
Absolutely, man. People talk, players talk.
Yeah.
And, you know, just because they're not in the transfer portal now doesn't mean somebody's not dropping little seeds around them.
Now, last team, Shane, let's kick it on down to South Carolina, where the Gamecocks also had themselves a scrimmage, and they went one-on-ones. I love anytime a coach has got confidence in his team to go one-on-ones, good on good, so to speak. Spencer Rattler, first 2 drives, scored on both of those, so you love to hear that. Unfortunately, Christian Beal-Smith, who Beamer notes is out for he missed the scrimmage, spotted in a walking boot. So we'll have to see what's up with that. But that ain't good news to have a running back in a boot down there. But
no.
Let's just kick it over to Beamer, Shane, who talks about the scrimmage and talks Spencer Rattler, of course, but also some really promising things to say about Luke Doty, which I love to hear.
Quarterback controversy.
And how the Gamecocks, they've really, really got to figure a way to start better in the second half and on the road particularly. They got down to some big time in some road games last year.
Yeah.
Good day in a lot of ways. Tried to make it as game-like as we could. SEC officials out there for the most part, sideline communication, coaches in the press box on offense, and all of the communication that we would have to have during a game. The young quarterbacks made them live today. They need to learn that they're going to get hit, and that I'm not just going to stand back there and blow the whistle when somebody gets close. So I thought those guys handled that well. The young quarterbacks that were live, and seeing them make some plays with their feet. Injury-wise, some guys that we did hold out today: Marshawn Lloyd, Christian Beal-Smith, Josh Vann, Corey Rucker, Sherrod Green, and Landon Sampson. Those are really the only new ones. You guys have been out there and kind of seen who hasn't been going, but those were some guys that didn't scrimmage today. None of those are long-term issues at all. Most of them will be back Monday. We're off tomorrow. We don't practice, but Monday morning's our next practice. I would imagine most of those guys would be back. A couple of them may go into the middle of next week, but nothing long-term from those guys. It was a physical day out there. And let me say this too. I mean, Spencer's done a great job as our quarterback, but I'm so impressed with Luke Doty right now. I mean, that kid is really, really taken another step as a quarterback. He's made some big time throws. He's been accurate in all of our practices. He made some big time throws today. The leadership that he brings. Proud of Luke. You know, I think it was this day last year, probably scrimmage number 1, where he had gotten hurt the day before, and I gave the whole doom and gloom and all that stuff talk about him, and then to come back off that, get hurt again against Vanderbilt later in the year. Then we bring in Spencer Rattler. Would have been easy for a lot of guys to pack their stuff up and go somewhere else, and not him. He stayed here. He's made Spencer better. He's made himself better, and it's showing right now. So excited about all of our quarterbacks, but really proud of Luke and what he's doing.
Well, I was going to ask about this apparent quarterback battle you got going on, but what did you see from Spencer today?
I thought Spencer, was good. He made some really good throws. You know, I think sometimes he's got to get rid of the ball quicker. There was, you know, he knew he wasn't going to get hit, but I told him out there. I mean, there were some times that he would have gotten hit pretty good, you know, out there today. So he's got to continue to get rid of the ball better. But understanding the offense, leading the offense, understanding what we're trying to get done, communicating that to the other 10 guys. Did a great job the very first drive. I mean, he took the offense right down the field. Everything we do is first group, ones versus ones, so we don't do anything against, you know, first offense versus second defense or any of that. So when we're out there, it's our starting offense, first group against the first defense always. And he came out and took that first offense right down the field, and then ended the drive with a stop where we had to kick a field goal. And then the second drive, I think they came out there and it was a field goal. So we've got to do better at sustaining drives. But I thought he did a nice job, Hale, of at least managing the offense and taking them, you know, down the field without our top 2 running backs and Josh Van not playing. So we certainly had some guys out. But like where Spencer is right now, and the thing with Spencer is we get closer and closer to, you know, game week, is narrowing down what we're doing each week and getting dialed in from that standpoint.
Sticking with the red zone, last year's home and away splits were kind of drastic in terms of how well y'all played at home versus on the road. As you get into this year, just what does this team have to do to be better on the road against SEC teams?
Great question. I wish I knew the answer. We've spent a lot of time looking at it for sure, and you're right. I mean, we talked about it with the team. Is we had some bad first quarters on the road, you know, or first halves, I should say. Tennessee, Texas A&M, Georgia, I guess, was 21-6. Should have been 21-6 going into halftime before I screwed it up. But East Carolina had us down 14-0, you know, going into the half before Damani made that play. So it's something that we've looked at. We've got to be better on the road. It's something that we've been thinking about and talking about ever since January, to be honest with you, Colin. Like, looking at what we do on Fridays before away games. Is there anything we can be doing differently at the hotel on Friday nights? And don't get me wrong, we played some really good teams on the road last year too, but we did not handle new environments well last year, and that's been a point of emphasis with this year's team, is being able to handle change better. And whether it be something, I think one day you guys were out there last week, we completely switched up like the field locations of where some of the things normally take place at practice. That was intentional, just to get used to being in unfamiliar environments and things like that. And we got to play better, we got to coach better. And not only that, but, you know, a big point of emphasis, if you look at us offensively, we were not good in the third quarter last year, and that's been a point of emphasis. We got to be better coming out of halftime, and we were today. That was one thing. We didn't have a great first half of the scrimmage, but we were much better the second half of it, and talked about it. You know, this is like halftime, and you guys are out there at practice when we have that. Y'all have seen Byron Gerardo on the microphone and all that, but when we take a break because of the heat and they go in those cool trailers and all that, you know, we're purposely playing music and Byron's on the microphone before we come out of those coolers, just to try and simulate, hey, we're in here at halftime, we're cooling off, we're drinking water, we're getting hydrated, we're getting snacks, but we got to go right back out on the field and play. So just trying to simulate as much of that as we can, because we do have to be better.
All right, Shay, but hey, I love any time that, you know, Beamer points it out. Luke Doty, I mean, a lot of players in Doty's shoes. You got to remember, he was a 4-star. He was an All-American, all this. You bring in another quarterback, I'm out of here. Luke Doty has taken the opposite approach. It sounds like his game is really coming along, even though he is second fiddle to Spencer Rattler. And again, it just helps the team overall because, God forbid, should something happen to Spencer Rattler, let's hope it doesn't, we have confidence in our number 2 to come in there and make some plays.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that gets overlooked, not just in college, but even in NFL. You know, these early round draft picks, and they expect so much, and they try to get them out on the field later, but, you know, they usually roll out week 3, week 4, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of pressure, but there's a lot of quarterbacks with that high expectations that just – they fizz out, and they feel like they don't belong. Maybe it's imposter syndrome. Maybe it's, you know, something along those lines. They just they lose that drive. And I think, you know, a guy like Luke Doty, this is a guy that basically lost his position when Rattler came in, but he's learning. You know, he doesn't have that spotlight on him anymore. He can, you know, take a little bit more time to learn the system and what Coach Beamer is trying to do down there. So I think this is a great opportunity for him to grow. And, you know, in the league that we're in, the SEC, think about how many quarterbacks start week 1 but don't make it to week 12 because of injuries or opportunities. So it is a league of next man up. And I think if you're bringing in that quarterback 2 up, 2 things are happening, man. You're making quarterback 1 better because that room's more competitive, but you're also there if an opportunity comes up, you can step in and this offense doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah, I like everything you said there, Shane. I also like Shane Beamer, what he was talking about, the emphasis there in camp, because, hey, for all the hype and expectation, and we're just as guilty of it with all this Gamecock, you know, hype and the expectations. Fans are over there saying, why can't we compete for the East? And you got talent where you should be far more competitive. But as Beamer's wise to point out, hell, we could barely compete on the road in conference last year. We struggled in the third quarter. I mean, they have, if they're going to win the SEC East, if they're going to even compete for the SEC East, they're going to have to go to Gainesville. They're going to have to go to Lexington. They have got to be competitive, and they got to win these ball games. There's a lot of progress to be made there in South Carolina, and you know, challenges to be faced for Shane Beamer and company.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been plenty of games. If they would have started off on the same foot last year, we may have been talking about more wins last year, because they did turn it up in the second half, which says a lot. I think that says more about the coach isn't the adjustments, but you're going to have to pick those adjustments up earlier. And I just love the fact that he admits that he was wrong. You know, he's not above it. He's not going to blame anybody else. He made mistakes. So, you know, this is a young coach that is learning along the way as well.
Well, hey, buddy, we went long on this one. We had a lot to cover here. We'll have even more to cover on the next episode. Couldn't even jam it all in on this episode. You got anything before we hop off the line?
Oh, man, just college content, man. College football content. I just absolutely love it. We got preseason games on TV. Buddies are cranking up the fantasy football draft. Mike hates it because he's in a couple of those text groups, you know. But I absolutely love it. I can't stay off the gambling websites. I'm already putting bets in. Oh, I'm just ready, man. I am so hungry for college football. But I'll tell you what I'm not hungry for, and that's Skyline Chili. Do you hear that? Doubling down on it, but no, that's all I got, Mike. It was good to talk to you, and we'll be back on tomorrow.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you as always, buddy. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right, see you guys. Go Vols.